This is our hero, but he doesn't look so heroic at the moment, as he's just been thrown through a window after getting punched and stabbed. If you know 2021's Nobody, you know how important this fight scene is for his character arc and what gives it its stakes. But one refreshing part of the scene I simply love is exactly how much our hero gets beat up. Nobody is certainly not the only film to do this by a long shot, but their approach reminded me how long it's been since I've seen an action hero who actually gets beat up, whose fight scene is an actual struggle. We've had countless movies and shows over the decades with scenes where our hero walks in with nerves of steel and expertly picks apart his opposition with the nimble and perfected choreography of a male Russian gymnast. These scenes are fun and serve as popcorn fare, but ultimately they're just another action scene and just another movie doing the same things every other action movie or show does. They keep our attention, give us a little fun, and are easily forgettable. All it usually tells us about our hero is, wow, they're really good at fighting. Neat. And there's only so many of these scenes one can run through before thinking, this is just not how taking on 5 henchmen would go in real life. Real fights aren't so neat and tied up in a bow, no matter how good you are. Delivering knockout blows can be pretty difficult, not to mention a bunch of them in a row. Of course, the point of movies is not strict realism, but this type of hero smackdown ultimately can work against the strength and tension of the scene. A scene that could have been riveting, if it mirrored more of the difficulty and chaos of real-life fights, is often rendered more bland and lifeless since it's really a given that our hero is going to destroy the bad guys pretty quick. We're supposed to be super impressed by these smooth, buttery choreographed scenes, but that's just it. They feel choreographed, like a well-practiced dance at times. And because the hero is so overpowered, not only is there decreasing tension through the fight scenes in the story, but frequently when the climactic fight does come and our hero actually begins to struggle, it feels somewhat phony and scripted, like the writers needed it to happen to convince us that there was actually something difficult for the hero to overcome. In Nobody, they ultimately solve this with story.
Come on!
Do you remember who he used to be, Archie? I do.
What about his watch?
Is this worth something?
To me, it is. Take it. Would you even take a swing?
She had it.
Could have taken her, Dad.
You know, if that was my family.
And know the stakes,
This girl's gonna get home safe tonight.
as well as how long he's been out of this kind of life and how important getting back in is for him, the scene is stretched with tension. It then really delivers by showing how beat up and exhausted our hero is getting. While we've seen plenty of henchmen politely and unrealistically coming at our hero one at a time so the choreography works out in other movies, this one is actually justified and carefully planned since they're in a narrow bus. It far more resembles the chaos of real-life fights and keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire time. The fights in the rest of the movie don't totally exhibit this type of struggle and exhaustion, which might be a little disappointing, but it makes sense as we discover his character backstory. But this scene's execution and excellence stamps itself on the annals of action movie history. I think this same principle is why we like Jim Hopper in Stranger Things. His fight scenes are not about style and show, he just does what has to be done with the grace and elegance of a middle-aged guy with anger issues and a dad bod, and at times he gets pretty beat up doing it. His scrappy, messy fights make him a far more relatable character than the average cookie-cutter hero with perfectly choreographed fight scenes and snappy one-liners. Not to mention, his fight scenes have way more tension since it isn't a given he will walk out without a scratch or even win. Daredevil really adds a layer of realism to its fights when you see that the hero completely gets exhausted throughout the fight. Sure, he does destroy a bunch of henchmen like we've come to expect of action heroes, but it stays grounded as we watch him start to falter and hardly be able to continue after a while. We often forget the massive physical toll a big fight takes on even the best trained fighters after enough time. And Daredevil jumps on that opportunity to remind us of this and add a layer of realism to the fight scene. Not to mention, he gets absolutely brutalized quite a number of times throughout the series, reminding us of his vulnerability, which in turn converts to tension throughout the action scenes since we know our hero isn't untouchable. Even Aragorn, who has far more fighting experience than the average mortal, stays grounded throughout the films as we see him struggle a number of times. Fight scenes are another opportunity to show characters overcoming struggle, and when the hero never struggles, it reduces the character to entertainment and not story. This is why Eowyn's character works so well in Lord of the Rings. All through the story, we're given her character motivations and learn her fears. So when her moment does come in battle, she proves different than the overpowered nonchalant hero by showing actual physical terror, It makes her character way more relatable because, yeah, if I was facing off against an undead Witch King riding a dragon holding a mason chain the size of a mailbox, I'd be terrified too. However, there's no possible way to have a conversation like this without mentioning one legend. Jackie Chan is so deeply committed to his stunt work, it's really a miracle he's still alive. From electrocution and spinal cord trauma, to falling out of a tree and fracturing his skull, which should have killed him, his martial arts prowess and stunt work is the stuff of legend. And in 2016, it earned him an honorary Oscar for his career in the film industry.
After 56 years film industry, making more than 200 films, I break so many bones. Finally, this is mine.
Much of his stunt work is mind-blowing in its speed, precision, and most of all, creativity. But much of the choreography in these scenes is spent on watching him get beat up. Nearly any fight scene of Jackie Chan's is in some ways almost as punishing to our hero as it is to the bad guy. And as a result, they hold way more gripping tension and excitement than most other action films out today. But we don't have Jackie Chan to thank for just great action movies, as it turns out that he was an inspiration for the existence of Rotten Tomatoes. In 1998, web agency creative director and Jackie Chan mega fan San Yuong couldn't find a website dedicated to reviews of Jackie Chan movies, so he created one coinciding with the release of Jackie's first mainstream Hollywood crossover, Rush Hour. After Rush Hour's release was delayed, the site went up anyways and included other movies outside of Jackie Chan, and the rest is history. However, there's maybe another hero that should be mentioned, one that gets so beat up he almost never wins any fights. Ultimately, no amount of innovation and realism in a fight scene can make us care about a story if it's not good. The fight needs stakes, we have to care about what's happening, and ideally the story is grounded in some resounding truth.
Do you remember who he used to be, Hachi? I do.
You seem so far away. I know it's unfair to put it like that. I miss you. Remember who we used to be? I do.
The film Nobody uses this bus fight to take its main character to the next place in the story. It's a key piece of character arc and it serves to catalyze the eventual final conflict. So I hope to see more action films with a few deeper ideas and fight scenes that are embedded into the story. And if they want to make it gripping and full of tension, they won't let the hero off the hook so easy without a little pain.